some, but not all, of some of the key stakeholders that we have met with over the past couple of months. And again, these meetings were just some introductory meetings to talk about the affordable housing and get some initial thoughts.
The last community forum, we walked through our site, shown in pink with the white dashed line, and our building mapping.
And one thing that we want to point out is the 522 rapid line for VTA. This is a bus that is about a 9-minute walk directly from the site. It runs every 15 minutes, starts at 5:22 in the morning, and this runs along El Camino Real from Palo Alto to East San Jose. So I know another question that may be asked is, okay, there's a bus there, so what? How long does it take you to get some places, and how much does it cost? Because when you think about sustainability, you want something that's a little bit better for the environment, it's reliable, and it's cost efficient. So these are just a couple of sample routes to places near Los Altos that you can get to on the bus, and as you can see from the one-way fares, it's pretty cost effective. And then we want to also talk a little bit about demand. So this is a site at Orchard Ranch in Morgan Hill, as it states, that we recently built. I think it opened, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Kind of lost a year, with COVID. But this is, again, a site at 9 o'clock in the morning. Again, this is a site at 9 o'clock at night. And I think what you'll notice, or maybe not notice, are cars. So these are just kind of a graphical representation. So of the 4,700 spaces that Transform studied, what it showed was that historically, parking has been built at about a 1-to-1 space per unit ratio, but the usage really kind of averages out to about 0.65 spaces per unit. We do also understand and respect some of the community's concerns about our initial parking proposal. So what we have done is our design team has looked at the site, and what we are looking at now is an additional 12 spaces. That's a 25% increase for 60 spaces, and that gets you to about a 0.67 spaces per unit ratio, which I think, as we showed before, is kind of the historical demand. Again, we definitely, we respect the concern. We also want to try to, keep the future in mind, and then also, a formal traffic study and circulation plan will be conducted. But what we hope is that when you look at everything that we've talked about, the location to the site, encouraging use of alternative transit, the walkability, the availability of sustainable transit, that this amount of parking should be sufficient to serve the needs of the residents.
And we also proposed the courtyard on the western edge. As I described earlier, this is really in the center in the plan you see in green. And the thought is that it's a protected space away from the main street. We are proposing street trees along Distel, along with planting around our perimeter edges. Really, open space is so crucial for the communities that we create. The way the diagram is showing on levels 2 through 5, as you see here, is that the units either face outward or they face inward to this community open space that we've created. And here you see in kind of purple with blue is our proposed balcony location that we proposed pre-feedback. And primarily our strategy was to line the perimeter of our building except for where we have the vertical parking. And now that we've walked through our plans and kind of oriented everyone, we would like to go through some high-level design concepts and strategies that we are proposing. Number 2, our second construction strategy was construction innovation via mass timber. And really, we envisioned this for the ground level space. The space at the ground level is really supposed to be more flexible and open, and we wanted to bring the warmth to the ground, this warm wood aesthetic. So we were proposing mass timber. There are so many benefits to mass timber, including being a renewable resource, reducing carbon footprint, faster construction times. So Usually we're comparing to concrete. It's naturally warm, and we just felt like it was appropriate in the context and the neighborhood. Native location. So I just threw another term, a puzzler. What is a puzzler? So a puzzler system basically moves the car like a puzzle via horizontal and vertical movement to park and to retrieve the car. This is that safety gate I was talking about in a car, driving in, parking into the one of the designated spaces and walking out, and the safety gate closes. And then the car being puzzled to its spot. Unit level, that the 7-level puzzle is the equivalent of our 5-level building in height. And here you see it working in the 7-level puzzler. And you can see how it shifts horizontally and vertically to bring that car down to ground level. And here is our proposed view at the southeast corner of Distel, looking towards El Camino. Here you can see at the ground plane is that mass timber, which the columns kind of span quite a distance apart, which allows us to have storefront glazing.
All ready for voters.
And then present day, what we did with the information we heard. So we'd like to share with you our current plan. Our proposed level 1 plan, as Walton mentioned earlier, has 90 units and 60 parking stalls. As you can see on the far right corner, on the next page, is our vertical parking solution, and we'll go into that further. Here we're walking through the scenario of what happens when a tenant wants to drive in. We still have our entry along that eastern edge in the big blue. So as you notice, the vertical parking structures all along that north and eastern edge now, since we've maximized the amount of parking that we can provide. We've also heard that, mitigated courtyard acoustics was important. And so, as I mentioned before, the building is kind of turning in a little bit, and that allows some privacy to the courtyard, but also some privacy to our neighbors to the west. We have stepped back our 5th level at that corner to be sensitive to that neighboring edge. And then here are a couple of potential balcony locations that we're looking at. As you may remember from the previous slide, that since our design has been modified to basically try to consider where other balconies could be and where they are not. And so we are not proposing to provide any balconies on that western edge, top left. Here again is our view from Distel. So we've talked through quite a few things today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Clarice Veloso-Lugo with EAH Housing.
My background, I'm active with Greentown Los Altos, so I know that transportation is a big factor in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and all that. So we do want to try to encourage people to ride a bike. And I think that's one of the advantages of this unit is close to downtown, and people who live here might actually bike to downtown. So that is something to think about. We also had questions about the modular, the advantages of stick versus modular construction. The modular allows the construction to take place off-site, so that reduces the noise and the number of trucks that are driving to the site, so there will be some benefits there. It allows some flexibility as well. And I'm not sure what the economics, I wasn't sure whether it's going to be cost effective or not.
Oh, Roberta's unmuted. Roberta?
Yeah. No, I was in group 2.
Oh,
I did want to comment that the parking was the main question, and if we want people to be inclusive in the community, would you not have public transportation to go into downtown Los Altos, the library, the community center, and although Garry Hedden, who I know well, I know he's part of Greentown, that was not the sentiment of the discussion that we had in breakout group 2. Thank you.
And you're right, Roberta. There was a lot of concern about not just parking, but the transportation. The buses do go downtown, but they don't go downtown often enough to be very useful. I agree with you on that.
We have a raised hand from Salim. Salim, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. I love the project. I think it's great. I also like how you guys synthesized community input at the last meeting. The only thing I don't like about the project is how long it's going to take. So 2025 is like super far out from now, and we know housing insecurity is an issue today. So my question is actually for the city. So I'm curious, I'd like to ask someone from the city, why is it that we can't use SB 35 to expedite this project?
Well, we wanted to, this is Jon Biggs, good evening everyone. We wanted to really make sure that we had a project that was vetted really well through the community, that had a lot of opportunities for the community to provide comments and input on. And we felt that the process that we're going through right now with the community workshops, the typical process that we would go through with holding planning commission hearings and city council hearings was one that would allow the most public participation in this project so that the community really had a good understanding and feel for what was being requested, any exceptions that were being asked for, and just a better overall concept of what was coming forward.
And then a quick follow-up question. Was this a city council decision?
No, it was a collective decision. I think everyone understood the importance of achieving affordable housing in Los Altos, but also achieving it in a manner that the community as a whole could be proud of. So we felt that this was a really good way to go about doing this. And we said early in the process that we wanted community feedback early, the opportunity for the community to share its thoughts and ideas before an application was turned in, so that so people were less in a reaction mode, rather they were more in a participatory mode as this project goes through its design and review process.
And sorry, just to clarify, when you say it was a collective decision, does that include the city council?
It was collected between the city, the county, and EAH Housing.
Thank you.
It's coming from Janine Valdez. Puzzlers are awesome. I'd rather wait at the bottom floor for my slot in the queue rather than sit on my car inside the parking structure waiting in line, breathing fumes. They're also safer for cars.
If there are some circumstances in which folks may not be able to get to their cars, or are there generators built in and so forth.
In the event of an emergency, our goal is to get everyone out of the building. Forget the car. Think about yourself, think about your family, and get outside safely. And that goes for a parking structure, right? The gates close. It's not like you enter, you exit the parking garage. You leave, and then the parking is secondary. But yes, our projects, because there is 4 levels, more than 4 levels, we will likely be providing a generator. And that generator typically is used during emergencies for emergency lighting. Your refrigerator is out. You don't want everything to go bad. Certain things that are, we have, maybe residents that need power for, life-saving, technology. And so that's where the generator goes typically. Can it operate the system? Likely, yes.
Susan Russel, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, I just thought that the puzzler sounds great, and I was especially impressed when she explained that it's only as noisy as a dishwasher. So I thought that was very good news.
Follow-up question from Janine. Will there be charging systems for electric cars in the puzzler?
So yes, the puzzlers are able to be electric, have EV charging on, in any of the stalls. We haven't defined the quantity yet, but what California code requires us to do is to have a certain percentage that is EV ready.
And then, another thing just to kind of, kind of thinking as we get some of the feedback about getting to downtown Los Altos specifically is, this is a partnership with the city. This isn't a EAH, coming in and just building affordable housing. This is a building that once it's built is going to be there, forever. So, and it'll be affordable forever as long as EAH is involved. So, we have to work with the city and work with the community to figure out other ways, because we can't, it's affordable housing. Our rents are going to be anywhere from $1,100 to a little over $2,000 for a family of 4 in a 2-bedroom, and sometimes even lower. So, we're not in a position to subsidize a vehicle per se, but maybe we could work with the city for other alternative ways to get to downtown, like a shuttle. I think somebody mentioned in one of the breakout rooms. So these are, again, conversations that we need to continue to have, as a partnership with everybody.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about how a 5-story building with 90 units will be sustainable and organic within this landscape?
I think with that, we are trying to provide most housing units that are, it's just very valuable and very needed in the city. And we're trying to make it as sustainable as it can be for a 5-story building.
Are there for elderly or disabled residents?
Good question. So we have a variety of amenities, so they're a little bit more flexible. So we have that multi-purpose room, kind of leasing, lobby, co-work. I think, for us, it's that all the residents can be able to use the spaces. We're designing it so that, it's inclusive to all kind of different age ranges. And it's really the function that goes inside, right? What's happening in those multi-purpose rooms. But I would say that in terms of accessibility and being able to go to any of these spaces, there will be accessible to all the residents. And actually, our units themselves, a little bit of a sidebar question, but our units themselves will be accessible, and certain ones will be designated as fully built out and fully, accessible to someone in a wheelchair. And to also add to that, there are requirements for accessible parking spaces that we are required as architects to provide. So those will be provided for people who have disabilities that need a certain amount of space and a certain amount of access to their stuff.
I think I did see a question. There will be an elevator. So again, it's fire code and then life and safety. The backup generator will be sized to be able to, if the power goes out, operate the elevator to get people out, and then able for you to retrieve your car if you're needed. But again, if it's a real emergency, the real goal is for us to get people out of the building if needed.
Question for the city. Why 90 units for such a small site? 5 stories. A 5-story building is not organic with the rest of the landscape and architecture for Los Altos. I want affordable housing, but we should not have more organic and sustainable mixed housing strategy instead of trying to build monster 5-story buildings. Anyone from the city want to take that?
Sure, I'll take it. This is Jon again. We started with the underlying zone district for the site, which is CT, and that zone district provides a height limit of 45 feet. And within 45 feet, you could potentially have a 4-story building. Coupled with the underlying zone district, the city has in place, along the lines of the state's regulations, a set of density bonus rules that allow for exceptions to some of our site development standards, like height limits, if they provide affordable housing units. This is a 100% affordable housing project, so it would be appropriate in this instance to grant an exception to one of our development standards. The one that is going to provide the most in terms of affordable housing units would be an exception to the height limit. And we do have a cap embedded in our density bonus regulations, the city's density bonus regulations, that limits an exception to that height limit of 11 feet. So 56 feet in height is about the maximum you can have on the El Camino Real or near the El Camino Real in the CT zone district. So coupled with the underlying zone district, the density bonus regulations, some of the projects along El Camino Real that have been built already, some of them that have been entitled and are in line to be built, we felt that this was an acceptable height limit to bring forward for a project like this to maximize the number of affordable units on the project site.
And it's around for the 2 and 3 bedroom units. Do we expect parents with kids, or will it also be open for multi-generational or unrelated adults? So can more than one adult live in a 2 or 3 bedroom?
You know, that's a question that I would need our property management team to unpack, because I'm not totally understanding, but you know, the occupancy standards in California are 2+1, and whoever's on the lease, I don't think it necessarily has to be a nuclear family in the traditional sense. So I guess the answer to the question is it could be, but we would have to dive into that a little bit more. So we do have an open house where this will be kind of another report out of what we have seen and heard from various meetings. This will be a live in-person event at Grant Park at 6 p.m. on September the 30th. And our plan, if we can, it's an aggressive plan, but we are still trying at this point, to get an entitlement package in November, because this really kind of kicks off a remainder of the process. You know, we need to get the financing in order. It's affordable housing. It's a very complicated puzzle to put together. And we really can't start that. In addition to just to take a step back, we are starting on a very solid foundation with the county and the city providing an immense amount of resources to kind of get us started. But we do need to leverage those in order to bring this fully to fruition. So this is, again, a tentative timeline where we will be working through the entitlement process through a good portion of this year and next year. And once that's done, we can go out and continue to try to leverage the resources that have been so graciously committed to this development, and hopefully start construction in early 23 and be fully leased up by early 2025.